Peter, Fox News are reporting that Trump's approval ratings are 35%. You mentioned the midterms there, which are coming up, whether that changes his strategy. You'd like to think that most likely it will. But I asked Senator James Paterson this question a couple of months ago, whether or not Trump underestimated going in. Paterson didn't want to be dragged into a conversation around that. But given how this is playing out now, it's going to enter its fifth month. And you're up against a regime that has no regard for its own citizens and their lives. I want to ask you the question now. Did he underestimate what going into Iran was going to actually look like?
I think he very clearly did, Lucy, and it was because of his experiences of the earlier military operations he'd commanded, the 90-minute strike at the nuclear facilities at Fordow last year, the snatch and grab of the Venezuelan political leader. I think Trump came into the start of this particular conflict thinking, wow, this military stuff's quite easy, and air power is all that I'll need to be able to change the regime in Iran. Now, he didn't say that was his goal, but I think it was the important step to achieving the things that he said were his goals, which was like eliminating the nuclear program. Now Trump realises that to achieve his military goals, he's got to go in much harder, and he's reluctant to do it because that means casualties, it means ground fighting, all of the things he doesn't want to do. The one thing I'd say, to go to the start of your question, the one thing that might change his opinion polls in the States right now is to win, is to win the conflict. But that means using more military force, and he just doesn't seem prepared to do it. So hence my statement, he's stuck. He doesn't have a strategy to get out of this plan. I think the Iranians know it. I think they're going to drag it and him along for as long as they possibly can. And until the United States decides to get, more serious, to ramp up the military conflict with the aim of regime change, we're just going to be stuck in this groove for quite some time to come.
It's a rather grim thought, Peter, and I'd actually thought that this was going to happen, but not until October, when the Iranian regime would really want to put pressure on petrol prices in the U.S. going into those midterms. But more broadly across the Middle East, what does this do to the broader alignment of the U.S. with the Gulf states, which had become quite close to the Trump administration and were working towards peace through the Abraham Accords? But at the same time, you've got Iran firing missiles at them. Walk us through what this has done to the broader realignment of the Middle East that had been taking place under this administration. Well,
the Middle Eastern countries like winners, and unfortunately the Americans aren't winning right now, James. That's a key problem. The Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, they cannot live with an outcome which leaves the Iranians in control of the Strait of Hormuz, because their oil and gas wealth goes through the straits as well. I think the Saudis are in the same position. The Saudis have some capacity to reroute their oil down to the Red Sea, so it's not completely economically disastrous for them. But I think they're very frustrated that the Americans don't appear to have gone into this conflict with a strategy for winning. And of course, Israel, I think, has been put into a really difficult situation because it's just suffering against this sort of massive anti-propaganda campaign against it in the West. Ironically enough, Israel's relations with many Arab countries is actually quite good right now. But we're in the territory of unfinished business here. I think if the United States is not prepared, and I've written this before, if the United States doesn't know how to finish this war, maybe the Saudis will feel ultimately that they have to do something themselves to finish this war, because they see the Iranian threat as existential to their own security. So the region is in a bad way, uncertain about American continuity of support, unhappy about the growth and consolidation of Iranian power in the Revolutionary Guards. So, we're only at sort of the end of chapter one of, I think, a longer story, with no clear sense yet about how this will play out.
And indeed, I always say, Peter, that this is a 47-year conflict, not a 5-month one. Thank you so much for your time, Peter. We're going to